as we have been dealing with the effects of COVID, notwithstanding things are hopefully winding down. And I would thank all of those of you who have joined us today, and to the members of the public watching our live stream or later the recording of this meeting. As is traditional, we have a land acknowledgement, and I would suggest that on behalf of the committee, we would like to acknowledge the traditional land on which we're virtually gathered is Treaty 6 land. And we would like to thank the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries, such as the Cree, the Dene, the Saulteaux, the Nakota Sioux, and the Blackfoot peoples. We also acknowledge this as Métis homeland and the home of the largest concentration of Inuits south of the 60th parallel. It is a welcoming place for all peoples who come from around the world to share the Edmonton metropolitan region as home. And with that, our agenda is before us. We don't have a packed agenda, but we do have a number of things to talk about today. So I would call the meeting to order, and I would look for a motion for approval of the agenda. And Mr. Broadhead, so moved.
Yes.
All those in favor, we can just put our hands up. So the agenda is approved and as presented. So I would now turn it over to Paul for discussion on the matters on the agenda.
Thank you very much, and you're correct, Mr. Chair. We've got a fairly brief agenda today, but the first matter that I wanted to speak to was just to provide the committee with an update on the ongoing talent acquisition activities that have been taking place. This chart is now very familiar to members of the committee. It's the one that we've referred to in a number of instances, and I just wanted to provide an update on the two activities that are currently underway. Over the course of the last week, we have had the first interviews for our long-awaited Chief Operating Officer position. We, as a result of going through a national and actually international North American-wide search, we had a number of qualified candidates that we spoke to, including some from beyond the Canadian borders. And we've narrowed down now the search, and we will be going into the second round of interviews we anticipate next week. So that process is going along well, and I am very hopeful that sometime in the next few weeks I will be able to provide the board with further information with regards to that position. Similarly, in terms of the corporate program manager position that we decided to advance a little bit earlier this year, we've gone through the interviews, and we are now in a position where we're hoping to extend an offer within a matter of days to a qualified candidate. And so we're progressing well on both of those key positions to complement the staff that are already in place. And while I'm talking about that, the staff that are in place, I would also like to highlight the fact that below the Chief Operating Officer, you'll see a new box, one that you probably haven't seen in the past. And I'm very happy to say that over the course of the last month, we have retained on a temporary contract Andrew Anderson to help oversee the project that is focused on the detailed service planning and bottom-up costing that WSP, under direction of the board, has been retained to complete. Andrew Anderson was instrumental in terms of putting together the original scope of work, and following that, we engaged in a discussion with Andrew and negotiated a 6-month contract for him to come on board to help lead that project, pending the arrival of a Chief Operating Officer. Andrew, as you are very well familiar, has had a long history through the earlier Ernst & Young work. He's very well versed in the needs of the Commission, and I'm really happy to have Andrew working as a temporary staff member to help oversee that work. There are a couple of other boxes that you see on this chart that are framed in yellow dots, and those are the positions that are currently under development. So we're going through the process of developing the revised project or the position descriptions, and these two projects or these two positions form the next two priorities that we will be moving forward with in terms of hiring or hoping to hire some qualified candidates to help assist the stand-up of the commission. So with that, this is probably an appropriate place for me to pause and answer any questions that you might have.
That said, I would open it to the board or to the committee if they have any questions relative to the organizational structure that we're looking to fill totally. Mr. Broughton?
Yeah, well, it's thanks, Mr. Chair. The corporate program manager, you say you're in the final sort of negotiating for that. What do you see as their first sort of activity coming out of the gate?
Yeah, so that position, as I said, we've kind of accelerated it. The board members of the committee might remember that when I came on board, Ernst & Young had actually identified that position as being or that type of position as being probably the next priority for the organization to retain. However, once I came on board and started to realize that there are a number of different key positions that we needed to put in place to help oversee the development of work plans and work streams to help guide the various activities that need to be completed as part of the stand-up, I deferred the pursuit or the hiring in that position. This position is now in my opinion, of essence for us. And what this position will help us do is it will really be a resource to the entire senior leadership team and to identify and continue to monitor all the codependent activities that are proceeding along the various work streams and keep all members of the senior leadership team, and in fact of the extended staff as well, the extended management staff, on track with a clear identification and clear mapping of those interdependencies. There are enough now activities that are proceeding in a related fashion, but we need to make sure that as those activities are going forward, that we keep track of them, make sure that the deliverables are reached, and we're able to not lose sight of some deliverables that might be precursors or that might be that other activities might be dependent on. So that project manager, although administratively it will report to the director of corporate services, that program manager will also have a dashed line and dotted line to myself as well as the other members of the senior leadership team. And the first activities will be for that person to come on board and really start mapping out all of the various work streams that are proceeding, mapping out the interdependencies of those work streams, and clearly identifying the immediate milestones that need to be reached in order for us to get to that vital early 2023 start of operations. Does that help?
That's helpful. Just a sort of a qualitative statement then. Your pool of candidates, you feel you have a successful candidate in there somewhere?
Yeah, so we've gone through the process of interviewing a number of candidates, and while the pool was not large, we were fortunate in that one candidate in particular shows to have great experience in this area, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to negotiate an appropriate starting set of circumstances for that individual.
Fair enough.
Mr. Jankowski, what would you suggest might be kind of the start time for that particular position if you're successful in locking the candidate down?
So the desired start time would be yesterday, but I think the reality is that this person is, and this has been an issue that I brought forward to the board in the past. This particular individual that we're negotiating with is currently employed, and so we're conscious and we're sensitive to the fact that there's going to be a period of transition that will have to be managed carefully. So I'm hopeful that within a 4 to 6 week time frame, we'll be able to have that individual on board.
And then hit the ground running, I would take it.
Correct.
Good. Okay. Are there any other questions, Mr. Jankowski, for relative to where we're sitting with talent acquisition update? I don't have any, and I guess Andrew is dealing with his committee closing off with the city of Edmonton right now. So with that in mind, I guess I would look for a motion to receive this information, this report as information. And I'm looking at you, Mr. Bradhead.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, with that motion on the floor, I would call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Oh, we got unanimous consent. So thank you very much, Andrew and Wes. Appreciate it. Okay, so next order of business, I believe we have to move in camera. So I would entertain a motion to move in camera.
I move that the HR and Compensation Committee move in camera in accordance with the provisions of Division 2, exceptions to disclosure of the Freedom of Information Protection Privacy Act as per sections 16 through 28.
Okay, I would call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that motion is carried. So you have to move us into a breakout room, or how are we handling it, Mr. Jankowski?
Yes, you'll get a little box, I think, to move into a breakout room shortly.
So the leave on the bottom of the, don't touch the leave because that'll take us right out of the meeting, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Here we go. Thank you.
Councillor Harris, you're still muted, I believe.
Oh, God, I hate that mute button. Anyways, I guess at this point in time, based on our conversation in camera, we'd be looking for a motion that's on the screen. And Wes, obviously Andrew is kind of tied up to a certain extent. Do you want to put that motion forward?
So moved.
Okay, with that, I will call the question. All those in favor?
Yes.
Good. Perfect. All those opposed, the motion is carried. So now I guess I can just adjourn the meeting as it stands right now. Would that be a fair assessment, Mr. Jankowski?
Yes, thank you. We have concluded the business.
Okay, so I would adjourn the meeting and thank you very much for everybody's participation. I think we're moving in the right direction with all the work that we need to do to get this organization stood up and functioning as well as we possibly can. So with that said, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Andrew.